the women's movement, not women as a collective, not every woman, but the women's movement made deals with the Rainbow Rider communities, the people with the rainbow flags, and they made deals with the African Americans at the time, the leaders of the civil rights movements and whatnot, so that they could all, quote, get their rights. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sheepish Shears podcast. I'm your host, Austin Creed, and my friends, today we're going to talk about the most manipulated man on the face of the planet, the American male. So my friends, as much as I would love to take credit for this idea, I cannot. It actually comes from Esther Vilar's book, The Manipulated Man, in which she talks back in the 70s, I think was when she wrote this book. She wrote it as a reaction to the feminist movement at the time. And not only did she say that they were off on their views, she also said that it was in fact the opposite, that it was men who were oppressed, that it was men who were being pushed out and who needed to be protected, not women. Because she argued in multiple different ways. I don't want to straw man her. I don't want to diminish how much work she put into her manuscript by any means. We're going to listen to a little bit of it in just a minute, but I want to lay the groundwork first. Number one, we need to understand that men have a natural desire to protect women. And there's this quote from Cato the Elder. He is an ancient Roman statesman, where he talks about how women, when they have a quote true equality with men, they really become their masters. And we see this now because we live in a post-womanist movement world in which the so-called equality seems to come at the expense of men. In other words, instead of them doing more, we now have to just take less. Because the problem, when everything is said and done, everyone's sides are chosen, it all comes down to this one simple fact. When a man makes a lot of money, he wants to have a family, or he wants to build a new business, he wants to give. When a woman gets money, she wants to keep what she has and get more. She's not going to provide for a man. She's not going to exercise that part of equality. Instead, she's going to pick the equality that benefits her, not one where she will then have to sacrifice and maybe... you will rarely, if ever, find a woman who's willing to be a breadwinner and have the, Mr. Mom stays at home type of guy. It's not impossible, but it usually doesn't happen, and when it does, the guy's a cuck and the woman is out there having a bunch of other dudes inside her. Versus guys, they don't typically do that. Because if they do, they get divorce graped to kingdom come, and their kids are taken away from them. That happens to people, by the way. I don't want to hear people gaslighting me and tell me it doesn't happen. I've seen it happen. I know it happens, okay? I'm a pre-law guy. You don't think I study these cases? I know that very well. My friends, we're going to look at, not my words, but Esther Vilar's words right here in a second. I'm going to let her cook. I'll provide commentary every once in a while. It's not narrated by her. It's narrated by a gentleman who read the book and who has put it on YouTube. So my friends, sit back, relax, and take in the wisdom that you are about to consume. Let's get going.
American man, the most successfully manipulated male on earth. The exploitation of the American male by the American female would be a purely American affair were it not a model for women all over the world.
I'm going to pause him right there. Let's stop right there. We've seen that already, have we not? Right out the gate, we've seen that across the world. Look at how the world has changed since the 1960s. Let's let them keep cooking.
Unfortunately, the economic hegemony of the USA influences not just the politics, science, research, and culture of all other capitalist countries, but to a great extent the social behavior of their populations. Through the mass media, which have been relentlessly perfected This influence spreads to all areas of life more and more rapidly.
We've seen that how many times?
About American consciousness becoming the consciousness of the world after a 5-year lag no longer holds true.
How many times have we seen that, ladies and gentlemen? How many times have we seen that it starts with one thing, before you know it, it's 2, then it's 4, then it's 5, then it's 10, then it's 20. How many times have we seen that? You give someone an inch, they'll take a mile from you. We've seen that. Let's continue.
Modern techniques of communication have flooded over the boundaries separating time and place. If the United States develops a new treatment for heart attacks, hospitals in Latin America will be using that very treatment a few weeks later. If the performance of American school children is improved by teaching machines, these same machines will be hooked up within a short time in the classrooms of Japan.
Again, how many times have we seen, whether it's the so-called 4B movement in Korea, that now all of a sudden, which first of all I've heard is not actually what people think it is, but let's just take that as an example. How many videos have you seen on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube, that all of a sudden all these old bats and all these misguided, undecided broads, they're out here like, yeah, you go, girl, yeah, fight the so-called patriarchy that doesn't actually exist, but, we're going to say it does because it benefits us. Oh, and by the way, for people who want a 5-second lesson in the patriarchy, it was meant to keep men in line, not you. Actually, it was meant to keep men in line and then have women keep women in line, but I understand most of you don't read books. Most of you are not very educated outside of what you hear on TikTok from know-nothings, but we'll continue.
The moment a hit like Jesus Christ Superstar opens on Broadway, students in West Germany start praying. As soon as the American female compares her situation with that of American blacks, women in England, France, and Scandinavia scream, "We are the niggers of the nation."
I just want to say, number one, this is back in the 1970s, okay? So if you find that offensive, take it up with her, not with me. But there is truth to what they're saying with the women's movement, not women as a collective, not every woman, but the women's movement made deals with the Rainbow Rider communities, the people with the rainbow flags. And they made deals with the African Americans at the time, the leaders of the civil rights movements and whatnot, so that they could all, quote, get their rights. And so that's what they did. They made alliances that then were kind of propped up by the robber barons of that time, especially the women's part of it, because then they could tax the other half of the population. So there is truth in what they're saying. Obviously, they don't have to put it in those terms, but there is truth to it.
While American influence has its benefits in other spheres, for example in research, in the social sphere, as far as the social position of men in these countries is concerned, surely there is none. There is no country in which men are worse off than they are in the United States. They are worse off by comparison with their female partners, and this is what we are discussing here.
I want to pause it and say, again, just for context, this was written by a woman. It's narrated by a man, but this was written by a woman. Okay? We need to keep that in mind, because it's very easy to forget and want to say, and I know people are going to come out and be like, oh, this is just some bitter and hurt man who wrote this and blah, 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 blah. No, this was written by a woman, a German woman in the 1970s. I don't want to hear people tell me that they didn't hear what I just said. Let's continue.
The differing living conditions of man and woman within one and the same social class of a given country, within one and the same family. Nobody will deny that the struggle of a poor white-collar worker to survive is more difficult in Portugal than in Sweden, and that in the same country a factory worker's wife has a harder life than the wife of an engineer. These injustices are the subject of many other books. Here we can discard them entirely. By comparison with her husband, not by comparison with the engineer's wife, The factory worker's wife leads a luxurious life.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, we need to understand that the whole womanist movement, as it continues to this day, is a giant psyops. It's a psychological operation, and it doesn't really benefit women, by the way. It benefits very selective few women, usually the women who are attracted to other women. It benefits them quite a bit. In fact, they were allegedly the ones who headed the movement back in the day that she's talking about right now. But again, my friends, I talk about men being manipulated not just so that you can go out there and participate in the victim Olympics that we see on social media every day, but so that you can understand how people are trying to exploit you for the money, how people are trying to use you to make a buck, and then you can then say, you know what, I'm not going to take this. I'm not going to sit here like a schmuck. I'm not going to sit here like a putz and take this garbage from people. I'm going to go out there, understand how to navigate and move and bob and weave so that I can get what I want out of life. That's what I want for you. Not so you can sit there and be like, oh, life is so hard and I don't like it and everybody hates me and all I want to do is exploit me. No, I'm not wanting you to do any of that garbage. I'm wanting you to understand how the game works. What people are trying to do is pull the wool over your eyes so that you can avoid all of that. So you can see clearly. So you can avoid exploitation. You can avoid people trying to convince you you're crazy. Meanwhile, they have not used a scintilla of actual logic. They've only come at you with emotion. It's very easy for us to want to feel like good people. But guess what? In trying to feel like a good person, you're probably going to compromise on things you shouldn't be compromising. In the military, I learned being compromised meant you were done. It was a negative thing. Compromise was, if I said I'm compromised, that means that I'm in trouble. I effed up. There's a huge problem. It didn't mean, oh, so you came to an agreement. Oh, great. No, it was bad. So my friends, why do we glorify compromising on things? There are some things that maybe you can afford to do it. Most things, I would argue, you can't. Because what you're doing is you're losing 50%. My friends, you as a man, especially if you're an American, you're being very manipulated by the government, by women, by big tech, by other gump men who buy into this and subscribe to this sack of horse crap. They subscribe to this. And what they're going to do is be like, hey, you, how dare you not want to work for the corporate America? How dare you not want to listen to these women and do what they say and hope they reward you with sex? How dare you not do these things? How dare you? They'll try to do that to you. Now, I can make analogies and whatnot to antebellum slavery if I wanted to do it, but at the end of the day, I think it would take away from the point, not make the point. My friends, manipulation is meant to be subtle. It's not supposed to be in your face, because then, when it's direct, you can dodge. When it's indirect, you're not going to see it as a threat. You'll see it as like a, oh, well that sounds non-threatening, that sounds benign, that doesn't sound terribly awful, I can get behind that. And then before you know it, you've accepted exactly what you would have denied had it been presented to you in such a straightforward way. That's what women tend to do especially. Not exclusively, but overwhelmingly they do that. And so my friends, you wonder why they vote to the left more and more than men do. That's why. There's a study that says that Gen Z men are becoming more conservative and Gen Z women are becoming more and more to the left. More what we might call liberal, what I say is communist progressive. This is not an accident. Women are more collective, men are more individualistic. This is an unavoidable fact. So when I talk about this manipulation, when Esther Vilar talks about this kind of manipulation, she's saying that people are trying to exploit you, and it's not always going to be directly in your face so you can avoid it. You might even think you're objecting to it, when in fact you're accepting something else by rejecting. We need to use what's between our brain, what's between our ears, better known as our brain, not what's below our belt. You know how easy it is to just listen to what's beneath the belt? and not use your brain? Very easy. We must be better than that, or we're going to get what everybody else is getting, which is slop. You want slop? You want to eat like a pig? I don't think so. Then why are you acting like one? My cousin, a man who I respect very much, he says that pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. We need to not be hogs. We need to move differently. We need to understand, we need to give knowledge to people who want to accept it. We need to give and give and give, but we don't just let people take from us. We must give to prevent people from taking from us. Does that make sense? I hope it does. My friends, I really hope you learned something today. I'll continue to talk about this. I would play the whole 30 minutes, but I don't think that you'd fully take in all of it because I couldn't just play it uninterrupted. If you want to go check it out, please go check it out. My friends, take care of yourselves. Please leave your thoughts and your comments if you've experienced this. You know what I'm talking about. You want to share. You want to vent. Please, this is an open forum for you. Even if you hate my guts, I'll still let you talk because I believe in free speech. My friends, you take care of yourselves. I'm out of here. Peace.